Hey, everybody. Today I want to begin by sharing a story with you that I have shared a few times before, but I find it to be a meaningful story to me personally, and particularly during these times. It goes like this. Long ago, a man sought the perfect picture of peace. He announced a contest to produce this masterpiece. The challenge stirred the imagination of artists everywhere. Paintings arrived from far and wide. Finally, the great day of presentation and judging arrived. Judges uncovered one peaceful scene after another, and every single picture brought on an applause from the viewers. Tensions grew. There were only two pictures left. As a judge pulled the cover from one, a hush fell over the crowd. A mirror-smooth lake reflected lacy green birches under the soft blush of the evening sky. Along the grassy shore, a flock of sheep grazed undisturbed. Surely this was the winner. The man with the vision uncovered the second painting himself, the final painting, and the crowd gasped in surprise. Could this be peace? It was a picture of a tumultuous waterfall cascading down a rocky precipice. The crowd could almost feel its cold, penetrating spray. Stormy gray clouds threatened to explode with lightning, wind, and rain. And in the midst of this thundering noise and bitter chill, a spindly tree clung to the rocks at the edge of the waterfall. One of its branches reached out in front of the torrential waters as if foolishly seeking to experience its full power. And on that branch, a little bird had built a nest in the elbow. Content and undisturbed in her stormy surroundings, she was resting on her eggs, her eyes were closed, and her wings were ready to cover her little ones. The story says, she manifested peace that transcends all earthly turmoil. I love that story because it shows us what true peace is. The peace that Christ offers us. It is a peace that is real, even when the world is in chaos around us. How do we find this peace? Well, let's first look to Colossians chapter 3, verse 15. Paul the Apostle writes this, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body. Here it would seem that part of enjoying the peace that only Christ can give us comes from submitting to Christ, choosing to allow him to rule not just our lives, our actions, but also our thoughts. Seeking to live by his standards and think by his standards rather than the world's. Jesus himself tells us in Matthew chapter 11, verse 29, he says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It's kind of like Jesus is saying to you and I, you don't need to understand everything, just trust me. Take a nap while I take the wheel. The moment we try to submit to our own rule or that of the world, the worry and chaos sets in. But when we trust Jesus with control, there is peace. Again, Paul tells us in Romans chapter 8, verse 6, for to set the mind on the flesh is death, but to set the mind on the Spirit is life and peace. Here, the same apostle teaches us that peace is found when we focus on and strive for and count on the things that are eternal rather than the things that are temporary. I read a story once of a woman who worried for 40 years that she would die of cancer. Finally, she passed away of pneumonia at the age of 70. The writer of the story said that she spent 40 years worrying about the wrong thing. The point is, not just our bodies, but everything that we have here on this earth will be taken from us eventually. As Job wrote, naked I came into this world, and naked I shall depart. So why should we put any hope or any confidence in such things? We find peace in the place where moth and rust do not destroy, and thieves cannot break in and steal. We must focus on those things that are eternal, not those things that are temporal. And finally, Paul tells us in Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and peace, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. It doesn't make sense. Will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. In other words, pray. But listen, do not treat your prayer like a lottery ticket, saying, I hope this works, or I hope I win this time. Treat your prayer like a communion with God, a time to lift your eyes from the things of this world and look to God, to his love and grace, to the victory he's already won for us. Sure, present your requests to God, like Paul tells us, but then leave them there at his feet and trust him to do what is best. We'll see you tomorrow.